So I have a couple of putters with me here. I have Newport 2 Pro Platinum Scotty Cameron. It's a beautiful putter. This one I have in for a request to weld this all in, so this can be converted to a smooth face, as well as the neck. This one looks like this is the same model it's had custom work done. It has a smooth face with some hand stamping and some tour style dots. And this is requested that I delete the top dot. And so I'm gonna weld this in, smooth it back out so it has a nice clean top line on this model. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that there's no little rusted spots or any corrosion down inside these grooves. And so I'm gonna take just a little stainless steel wire wheel off of my rotary tool, brush those spots out in these cavities and clean them up. A lot less chance of any weld defects. Both of these putter models are carbon steel. They're highly magnetic. On the putters I've worked on in the past, these are all oil hardened or oil quenched, which makes the welding a little bit erratic and kind of wild when you get into these. It's just something that is part of it, and so just taking the steps needed to help eliminate it and make the welding process easier is all I can do. As soon as the oxide's cleaned, it will start to build a surface oxide, just naturally exposed. And so cleaning these up, like right before I weld it, is always best case scenario. And this is what I was looking for. That's exactly what I was looking for, is these two little tools. So this is a cut brush and an end brush from Ferd, and I've had these for quite a while. I've hung on to this one just in case I ever run into a situation that I need it again, and this is hopefully gonna work perfect. So I got this end brush done. I'm gonna turn my speed down just so this brush doesn't flare out. Oh, that was perfect. It's a lot cleaner. So I'm just gonna kind of preheat this a little bit. There's a lot of condensation going on in here. I'm just kind of warming this up. It's gonna let it take the weld a little bit better. So I'm using a carbon steel filler, and I'm using a 1mm filler size. It's gonna help me control that a little bit more smoothly. I don't want to do too much buildup just because it's going to be more work to grind this off. So I'm just trying to keep this really smooth, even, and kind of planning for the next move. Try not to have any underfills. I just want to weld this in one shot, especially as this is old carbon steel. Having this all warm throughout the weld really helps. So that went like perfectly clean and smooth, so I'm really excited with that. I'll let it chill in the fixture for a minute and kind of cool down, and then flip it over and do the face side. So that's all the weld covering up the original Cameron stamping. It doesn't look pretty, but it's what it takes to cover it up. I'm not worried about any of the weld aesthetics. I'm just trying to keep it all really flush and smooth, just so there's not a lot of excess buildup, just to make the grinding process that much easier. Start with the words first and then move on to those big dots. I'm not trying to make it pretty, I'm just trying to keep everything really flush and eliminate any undercut or underfills, or sometimes it kind of, on these letters, how they're in a channel, as you close them up, it sometimes closes it up and creates an air pocket, and that last little groove where it has the milling, and then that causes a little issue, and so after you blend grind it, it leaves a very visible pinhole that
has to be re-welded and then reground. So I just try to keep all that really smooth, consistent, precise without cutting deep into the face, so everything just stays really nice and even. That welded pretty nice. You can see the oil burning out right here where it kind of has this soot. Just part of it, old steel just absorbs oil like a sponge. That's what it takes to weld those in. So I'm just warming this up a little bit. The carbon steel, you need these a little bit warmer before you go into welding them, or you're going to have this signature right here where you can see this weld from somebody else customizing this putter and doing the modification. If you make sure that this is warmer, it takes that weld and everything blends in and fuses together a lot more fluidly, and you get less of that different grain signature from the different metals. Even though we are using steel, all steel, especially after it's been carbon quenched, it changes that grain structure where it really tightens it up and normalizes everything, and it hardens the steel. This is going to be a softer steel going in. Start in the center of the dot and then let the middle of it fill up so it can basically just create a little bead, kind of like a ball of weld. And then as it grows, the footprint is going to grow out, meet the edges of the sidewalls of that little plunge mill. So the base of it will kind of grow, spread out, hit the sides, and then I can build it up from the bottom up. So that fills up really quickly, and it's going to let this post gas a little bit. Hopefully this is a pretty easy cleanup without any defects in there. The face stayed pretty nice. I don't have any warping on the face or anything at all. That's really nice. No distortion or rolling. We can see a heat signature right where it was welded. That'll be cleaned up, likely with probably like a bead blast refinish on this thing. So I'll just knock this down. So I have a flap wheel. This is just a mini compact version from Ferd, and these last a long time. Just start knocking this down a little bit until I get close, and then I'll probably go into it like a hand finish. Yeah, I have no pressure really. I'm just letting that grinding wheel just kind of float across the surface of it. So I can't really be adding any pressure. It will start gouging into the rest of this. So just being really patient, just taking your sweet time with it is really what it needs. And just kind of watching the light striations in the background reflecting off of this is what I use to grind this. All those light reflections, and that's what helps balance everything. It's exactly what you look at when you're putting on a green. I'm going to start with this file. So this is a little 1/4" flat file, and it has a slightly radius edge on it. I like this file a lot because that little bit of a radius edge helps it float across the surface more and it doesn't gouge anything. So I'm going to choose this file to start. So that's the front edge of that line is all true and clean now. It was just barely out. And I'll start with this back one. I'm gonna start with the edges that I know are the true clean square edges. And by doing that, everything comes back in transition and rolls into the same spec across the top one. I kind of like just to let the file kind of float more like a 45-degree angle and just rock it back and forth. I find that this is maybe not necessarily a proper file technique, but it's what I like because I can keep that feeling in my fingertips. I can feel every little striation and groove smoothing out with each stroke. So this is stainless steel polish compound, and I'm going to grab a new felt for this one. I grabbed a little quick mount felt and some polishing compound. Kind of roll those edges just like I did with the file, and then work back across the center. As well with this, I'm not really putting a lot of pressure or anything. I'm just kind of letting the abrasive and the felt polishing compound just work. It's all designed and engineered to do its job, and so just being patient and letting everything work is always the best.
There's just a couple of deep striations left in here, so I'm just working those out with the polishing disc. This felt paired with the compound just kind of heats up the surface of the metal and stretches it over the top of itself. And that's one of the cool things about polishing, is just moving that surface of the metal, kind of liquefying it and letting it just roll and glide across itself until it creates that like mirror-like finish. Refinished top line, you can't even see where that original dot was. I know that it was right there, but I don't even see any signature of it. Just letting that preheat and warm up a little bit really lets that transition blend, versus where you can, I don't know if you can see, where you can see that previous weld right here where the steel was likely left cold, or maybe it wasn't cleaned and the oils kind of isolated that filler metal a little bit more.